Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's episode of Roundabout Sports, presented by Harsh Construction, LLC, and Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. I'm the Maestro, Jeremy Karp. It has been one with all the snowstorms here in the Missouri area, but it is Wednesday, December 3rd, 2023, and happy Spotify Rap Day to all those who celebrate. And I want to talk a little bit before we get started, of course, about our sponsor, that being the one and only Harsh LLC. So, Harsh Construction LLC has over 50 years combined experience in home remodeling, landscaping, renovation. It runs the gamut. So, be sure to call them at 618-363-9818. That is 618-363-9818 for a free quote in all aspects of home renovation/building. Be sure to contact Harsh Construction LLC. With all that said, I want to tell you all where you can find us if you're tuning into Roundabout Sports. You can find Roundabout Sports on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, Amazon Music, and anywhere else you stream your podcast. Also, be sure to find us on the official Interstate 70 Sports Media YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. There is a lot that we have to talk about this week, and I'm the Maestro, Jeremy Karp. My good friend AB will be joining us shortly, my partner, brother, and co-host, so stay tuned for that. But until then, there's an interesting story, a couple interesting stories I kind of wanted to get out of the way from the world of sports. So the first story we have for you today is that Katie Woo of The Athletic, who has spent the past 5 years covering the St. Louis Cardinals as the lead writer, is actually leaving to cover the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, a lot of people might be surprised by this, but in reality, she is a longtime journalist. She's been the premier beat writer for the Cardinals and one of, if not the number one source for all sports journalism with the St. Louis Cardinals. And the thing of it is, she is from the California area. And it's amazing because she is an absolute gem. She's great to conversate with. And it's really sad to lose her. But you know what? I mean, she gets to go home to her hometown, her home state, and have a job working covering the back-to-back World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers. And I know, well, a lot of us feel about the Dodgers, but, this is a great opportunity for her, and I'm extremely happy for Katie. And she says starting this week, she will be switching to the Athletics Los Angeles Dodgers beat. So congratulations, Katie, and best of luck in all of the success. That being said, I am not going to be taking her place at the Athletic. I know that was the biggest question mark heading into all. No, I'm kidding. All joking aside, I'm excited for the amazing show we got today. So I want to talk also next about, before AB joins us, in regards to last week's Thanksgiving slate of games. Now, I'm not going to talk about the scores or the predictions because that's something I want to save for when AB is on the show. But I want to talk about the viewership of these games. So this year's, there was 3 main games, of course. Well, the NFL viewership was record-breaking all across the board. The average viewership for the game, for the Lions, Packers, Cowboys, Chiefs, and Ravens, Bengals was an average of 44.7 million viewers across all platforms. In fact, the late afternoon game between the Chiefs and the Cowboys, in which yes, the Cowboys did defeat Kansas City, was the most watched NFL regular season game ever, drawing an incredible 57.2 million viewers. Now, the early game between the Green Bay Packers and Lions averaged 47.7 million viewers, which is funny because that's the official second most viewed regular season game ever. And then, of course, the late night primetime game between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens, which featured Joe Burrow's return, averaged 28.4 million viewers, which is, obviously a sharp decrease to what the other two games were, but it's actually the highest viewed primetime Thanksgiving Day or Thanksgiving game on record as well. This is all up 30% from the previous record of 34.5 million average viewers, and up 58% from the previous year is a record 2.2 million increase in digital streaming. So, yeah, it is incredible that and keep in mind, the previous high mark of an NFL regular season game was the Dallas Cowboys and New York Giants in 2022 on Thanksgiving Day, which garnered 42.1 million viewers. Now, these records of viewership date back to 1988. Obviously, Thanksgiving Day has been around a lot longer than that. Commissioner Roger Goodell said today, quote, "Thanksgiving and NFL football have become synonymous. We are grateful to our teams and broadcast partners for these incredible games and honored to be a part of so many families' holiday traditions." It's interesting because right now, since the start of the 2025 NFL season, 50 or out of the top 50 shows on television, 48 of them have been NFL games, which is an incredible feat in and of itself. So we do have that interesting tidbit of information. Also, the Ravens and All-Pro tight end Mark Andrews have agreed to a 3-year, $39.3 million contract extension, which includes $26 million guaranteed, as reported by Mike Garafolo from NFL Network. And this was the final year of Mark Andrews' recent $56 million deal. And a lot of people have been wondering if he would be a trade candidate, a possible just a cap casualty, let him go type thing. But in week 11, he set the franchise record for receptions, which is really an accomplishment in and of itself because he's only 30 years old. It's very, and the Ravens are still such a young team, but he's an all-time Raven. It's interesting because he's the career leader with 473 catches, 5,862 yards, and 56 touchdown catches. And Eric DeCosta said, quote, "Mark is an all-time Raven, a top competitor, and Pro Bowl tight end who is a big part of the Baltimore community." And it's interesting because this season, especially in last season, honestly, his passing work has decreased. But, the whole thing with the Baltimore Ravens is rough. Speaking of the Baltimore Ravens, we're going to continue this because we're going to backpedal to the Thanksgiving Day talks because I am proud to welcome my dear friend, the one and only AB, Austin Bradley. How's it going, buddy?
I'm good. How are you? Excuse the headset tonight as opposed to a to a microphone. I'm doing my first broadcast this weekend, so we've got
You got to
some
get
different
ready.
things working on the computer system today.
Hey,
But
nothing wrong with it, man. I mean, how was your Thanksgiving, first of all, before we get into anything else, since you've joined us? Like, how was your Thanksgiving?
yeah, man, it was great. It was great to be with family and friends as always, and we always have a big dinner on my dad's side of the family on Thanksgiving every day or every year, and this year was no different. The location was different. We had to move it to my aunt's few minutes down the road. Her boy's a lineman, and he was on call, so we had to move it down there so he could be with us. But I think everybody was okay with that, and I think we had a great day. So I hope yours was good as well.
It was wonderful. Got to spend it with both my family and my fiance's family. Both Thanksgivings were just absolutely fantastic. So we were speaking of Thanksgiving. Before you came on, I was talking about the Thanksgiving slate of games and how we went 0-3 in our predictions.
Yeah, we were atrocious, weren't we?
We were bad. I'm not going to lie. And I'll say this. The scores weren't, I think, too far off, but until we get to the Baltimore game, that's
Okay.
where it got bad.
In fairness, what did I say? I did say that if Joe Burrow come back and played like Joe Burrow can play, Cincinnati had a really good shot to win it. And hey, if let me just make sure I'm right. Yeah, if 261 yards and 2 tutties is not how Joe Burrow can play, I don't know what is.
Here's my thing about all that. First off, you're the league's worst rush defense, and you have one of the best run games in the NFL in the Baltimore Ravens and Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry just absolutely destroyed the Bengals in the first quarter. He gets no carries in the second quarter, 1 carry in the fourth quarter. The offensive play calling for Baltimore has been atrocious this year, and abandoning the run game. And Lamar Jackson is off beyond belief right now, and I'm sure it has something to do with the nagging injuries. But Lamar cannot get it done right now this year. It's impressive. Baltimore went from being 1-5 to 6-6. That's still very impressive, going 5-1 in your last 6. But the point stands, yes, sometimes if the game gets out of hand, you have to abandon a certain game script and go somewhere else. But if you're Baltimore, run the ball. Run it down. Cincinnati was not stopping you. Now, the defense of Baltimore was getting torched as well. Burrow had a very efficient game. And on top of that, I mean, Chase Brown did a lot of great damage on the ground as well for Cincinnati. So,
Right.
Kudos to him on that.
Well, when you have a guy like Derrick Henry and who can do the things that he can do, and you're right, you're 100% right whenever you say in the last couple of weeks, Lamar Jackson has struggled. Like you said, it was impressive for them to go from 1-6 to 6-6 or 1-5 to then what was 6-5 and now 6-6. But yeah, I mean, whenever you have a guy like Derrick Henry, you have to utilize him. There was another game that happened this weekend that if a certain team had utilized what they had a little bit better, maybe a certain win streak would still be alive. I know we're not talking about that, but I will say that it's kind of a similar story. You have to utilize your weapons, and that's any sport. And I mean, there is never a game, and you're going to agree wholeheartedly with this, Jeremy. There is never a game where Derrick Henry should only have 10 carries.
Absolutely. And no, I'm not just saying that because I have him in fantasy, because I still got 17 points and I won. But point being, he still shouldn't get 10 carries in any game. Right. You cannot just stop there. And I get it. You do need to rotate him out. He's 31 years old, and Keaton Mitchell's a very solid young running back. But come on, you cannot go an entire quarter without having Derrick Henry even attempt to run the ball. It is unbelievable. And yes, it is one of the reasons that I think the Ravens lost to Cincinnati. Now, we'll go back even further to the first game of the Thanksgiving lineup, and that's the Packers and Lions. And I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to tell you exactly the time I knew it was over. And it was when the Lions went for it on 4th and 3 near midfield, didn't make it, and then the very next play, Christian Watson catches a bomb of a touchdown from Jordan Love. At that moment, it's over. Like, come on now. And Dan Campbell's known for his aggressiveness, but you just sometimes punt the ball away, man.
Yeah, I agree. I will say this, and this is because this is simply like I don't want to lose any credibility here, but this is simply just because I don't want to speak on a game I didn't get to watch very much of that. That was right around the time we were eating. So the game, I'm not gonna lie, the game was on the television, but I was just kind of loosely watching it. Not really paying attention to it. So I don't want to speak on that, and that's also my bad for not doing my research throughout the week. But I don't want to speak on that. I'll let you carry the load on that game because I haven't seen that game, and so I'll give you the floor on that one.
So, yeah, the Packers ended up winning 31-24. And you know what? We had talked about this last week. We both said that specifically 8-3, or in the case of the Lions, it would have been 8-4, looks a lot better than 7-5.
Yep.
Especially in the NFC right now, in which Chicago is the number 1 seed for the first time this late in the year since 2006, the year they made the Super Bowl. Now we look at what's going on with the Lions. I mean, it was a good back and forth game between both teams, but the main thing is Jordan Love tied a career high with 4 touchdown passes. The blocking, the offensive line held up perfectly for him. And honestly, and yet despite that, what's interesting is I look at how even both teams were. If anything, the Packers actually had more 4th down conversions than the Lions. The Packers were 3 for 3, but here's the kicker, and this is the big thing in all of this, what I'm trying to get at. The Lions were 0 for 2. That's the big thing. And keep in mind where I said one of those were near midfield. Also, Dontavion Wicks with 2 amazing, unbelievable highlight touchdown grabs, one of which people are still talking about, wondering if it was a catch. But to me, I still feel like it was. Now, Green Bay controlled the clock. They held Jahmyr Gibbs, who to me is a top 3 running back in the NFL. Well, definitely top 5, maybe top 3. He only ran for 68 yards on 20 carries, and he only got 18 yards on 3 catches. So you're taking a look here at the 2-headed monster of what Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery is best known for. And the biggest thing of all, Austin, Amon-Ra St. Brown got hurt. He is questionable for tomorrow night's game against Dallas. And we're about to get into Dallas and explain why that injury could be pretty significant. I mean, we know it's significant regardless, but yeah, we'll especially explain why. But anyway, Packers with the big win. And it was important considering Chicago beat the defending Super Bowl champs on Black Friday in Philadelphia, 24-15. But enough of the Packers. We're going to go forward now to our afternoon slate game on Thanksgiving, which was the highest viewed regular season game in NFL history, like I said earlier. The Chiefs and Cowboys. Man, oh man, oh man. If there's anything, at this point, I don't think the Chiefs make the playoffs. I don't. They looked so flat through over half of that game last Thursday. They, with no energy, no spark, the Dallas defense shut them out in the second and third quarters. Dak threw 2 touchdowns, and the funny thing is, this isn't the offense's fault. Patrick Mahomes threw 4 touchdown passes. Right. The Chiefs, by all means, they lost 31-28. By all means, the Chiefs should have won this game.
Right.
Defense got 0 pressure on Dak. He had all day to throw. And they were methodical on offense. George Pickens has found a new life in Dallas. So give me your thoughts on this whole Chiefs-Cowboys game and what it means for the playoff fortunes now, because we're now looking at a Dallas team that not only is well in the playoff race, but after Philly's loss and the fact Dallas beat Philly the week before, we're suddenly looking at a Dallas team that is still in the contention for the division title.
So on the Chiefs side, I want to say this. I was totally off base last week. I was totally wrong. I was very encouraged with their victory. Yes, I know it was an overtime field goal against the Colts. I was very encouraged by that. I want to say I'm not a Chiefs fan, but just as a football person, as I was encouraged by what progress I thought they had made. Going into the game against the Cowboys, I expected Mahomes to rise to the occasion on a big time Thanksgiving Day football game, and he did so. There's no doubt about that. He had 4 touchdowns, did not throw an interception. The offense looked good enough to win. But I'm going to be honest with you. The defense is just not. It's not it. It's not good enough. It's not good enough to win in the regular season. And if it's not good enough to win in the regular season, it's dang sure not good enough to win in the postseason. So, I think, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, I think that unfortunately for them and their fans, Thursday was probably the final nail in that in the coffin of the Chiefs for this season. I think that this is too good. Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, these guys, they're too good to have back-to-back or, this isn't the end of the Chiefs run. I'm not saying that.
No,
but
I get it.
I think that every time, and we've seen this in other sports where teams are so that eventually everybody else catches up. And I think that's kind of what we saw. I mean, even go back to the Super Bowl last year. I mean, that game wasn't close. That game wasn't a close game. It was over at halftime, essentially. And I feel like what we've seen starting back at the Super Bowl in last February, I think what we've seen all the way until now is we've seen other teams, and that's part of it. Now, I would like to, if you don't mind for just a moment, I would like to compare this to another team, a team that won multiple championships, and then teams caught up. The Golden State Warriors, they won it in 2015, of course, lost to the Cavs in 16, but then won it 17 and 18, and then everybody caught up to them, right? And then they won another one. Okay, they won another one in 2022 before Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were really, top tier stars of the league. I think we could probably see a similar case with the Chiefs. I think their run of terror is over. As far as I think the years of the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl each and every year are done. But I would not be shocked. They're still going to be in the mix, and I also believe that they might win another one or another couple. But I think, like I said, we've seen everybody else catch up, and Steve Spagnuolo, Spags as they call him, he struggled. He has struggled this year to put the right combinations together or whatever it is to be effective on defense, and we saw that it was glaring Jeremy, it was glaring on Thursday.
I think the glaring issue of this whole Chiefs team, and the reason they're 6-6. First off, the problem for the Chiefs isn't even that they're 6-6. You could a team that's 6-6 right now could still make the playoffs. The problem is the three teams that are ahead of the Chiefs in the wild card race all own tiebreakers over Kansas City. That is the problem. Then there are 4 games behind the Broncos for the AFC West. So,
right. And I would also like to say this: they have 5 games left, and against the Chargers, one being the Broncos, one being the Chargers. Now both of those games are at Arrowhead, but those are not easy games. Those are not easy wins, and I don't know that they can go. And in fact, I don't think 3-2 over the last 5 is good enough. I mean, I don't know about you. I just don't. I think that they have to. In my opinion, they have to go 4-1 or win out. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of where my head's at.
Yeah, and I get that because, yeah, Arrowhead is literally one of the toughest places to play for a road team. But right now, the momentum is all on the Chargers and on the Broncos, especially the Denver Broncos, who just went through, to me, the game on Sunday night against Washington, which I thought was just going to be a snooze fest at first, because on paper, you would think one of the most fun games I've seen in a long time.
Oh, absolutely, it was so fun.
Absolutely thrilling game from start to finish. Great effort by Marcus Mariota and Bo Nix, and just both teams in general. It was just a great primetime football game. To me, the biggest problem with the whole Chiefs organization, I'm going to put it to you in the best analogy possible. The Chiefs' front 4 has 15 sacks. Okay? All the Chiefs' defensive linemen combined have 15 sacks. Myles Garrett has 19. When one defensive player has more sacks than your entire team. Now, in total, the Chiefs are 27th in the NFL with only 22 sacks. They didn't sack Dak Prescott once on Thanksgiving. And when you don't get quarterbacks, when you don't make quarterbacks have to force any throws, you don't get turnovers because there's less time they have to worry about making a mistake. George Karlaftis leads Kansas City right now with 5 sacks. 5. First round pick, you invested a lot in because what happens is you just signed him to a massive $93 million deal. And then you got Chris Jones second on the team with 3 sacks. Now, I give Chris Jones more of the benefit of the doubt only because he's more of an interior lineman. So interior linemen don't typically, unless you're like an absolute freak of nature like Aaron Donald, get as many sacks as the edge guys, especially if you're getting double teamed. Now, this is not enough to get it done. For example, when they won the last time the Chiefs won the Super Bowl in the 2023-24 season, whatever you want to say, they led the league with 57 sacks on defense. Now, the offense over the past 5 weeks has looked better than what they started out as. I think the Chiefs' offense is coming together. I think the running back situation, which I've talked about extensively, is looking a little better. But this is the funny thing. The Chiefs have not only made the playoffs each year for the last decade, but they've won 9 straight division titles. Unless the craziest thing happens where the Broncos collapse historically and the Chiefs somehow win every game the rest of the way, that streak's ending.
Right.
And the decade-long playoff appearance streak could also very well end because right now I want to really take a look at the AFC playoff picture heading into Week 14, which starts tomorrow night with the Lions and Cowboys. So right now for the AFC, the Patriots, Broncos. Well, the Patriots are the number 1 seed. Then you got the Broncos, Jaguars, and Ravens. Those are your division winner or leaders right now. Which, keep in mind, the Colts are not one of them. I'm a little amazed how the Colts have fallen and the Jaguars have risen. Kudos to them. Then you got the 3 wild card teams, Chargers, Colts, and Bills. So then we got those teams that are on the bubble. Right now, the 2 teams ahead of Kansas City as far as on the bubble is Pittsburgh. It's Houston at number 8. Then you got Pittsburgh. Then finally the Chiefs. And to add one more thing, AB, I want to really put this in perspective. Quietly, the Miami Dolphins, who are so fun to poke fun at, are 5-7. The Bengals, who now have Joe Burrow back earlier than anticipated, are 4-8 in a weak AFC North. Both of these teams are knocking on Kansas City's doorstep. Now, how embarrassing would it be for this organization if they not only miss the playoffs, but they fall to perhaps the 10th or even 11th seed in the entire AFC the year after making it back to the Super Bowl, trying to three-peat? That is, to me, a historic collapse. You may think, like, some people may not think otherwise, but I mean, yes, I agree it's not the end of the dynasty. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. Every team has an off season. I look at the 2002 Rams as a perfect example. You had the greatest show on turf from 99 to 01. 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. One of them was a win. Went 7-9 and missed the playoffs in 2002. A lot of injuries. Then comes the kind of the renaissance the next year. And even in 2004, when they went 8-8, they still made the playoffs. So they had 2 more big playoff appearances after kind of squished in between with that bad year. So,
right.
I get it. Off years are bound to happen. Some people will call it a hangover, if you will. It's a very common thing in sports. I think my whole, thing of it is the biggest problem is it doesn't seem like the Chiefs are investing in what the holes on the team are. They are not going out and putting more into the defense they need, and because at the end of the day, I know what you're going to say about defense winning championships in an offensive driven league. I get it. But at the same time, defense is crucial here. And Kansas City does not have much of a defense right now.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I mean,
speaking of defenses, you got to tell me and the amazing audience what the actual hell happened to the Michigan defense in the big game against Ohio State.
Yeah, of course, in the moment, and I think I actually messaged you, or I don't know if I messaged you first or you messaged me, but in the moment, I didn't take it well. First time.
No, you didn't. You messaged me, and I remember that, but I get it.
First time in 6 years that Michigan goes down to Ohio State. I want to say first and foremost, and most importantly, as much as I hate to say this, congratulations to Ohio State and to their fans. I'm going to take the high road here, and say that it's there's a lot of things that are said. I try not. First of all, I do not make sports personal. That's not in my nature. That's not who I am. So I will mouth back and forth. I will banter back and forth, but only on a sports related level. I'm just not the kind of person that's going to say anything about your mom or anything crazy like that. So I did get to eat some crow. I'll get into the game though. I want to say Ohio State was just better. They were better offensively. They were better defensively. They were better on special teams, and they were better last year too. Like I want to make that clear. I think that to an extent last season in 24, whenever Michigan won in Columbus, there was still a little bit of that mind game, that mental advantage that that Michigan carried over, and they were able to, because of Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham on the front line there on the defensive side, they were able to bait Ohio State and Will Howard into playing their game. And honestly, Jeremy, I don't know how much of it you watched at the very beginning of that game. It kind of looked like the same thing, and I actually saw a video where so Michigan comes down, Jordan Marshall breaks off on a huge run. They end up not being able to get in the end zone. He kicks a field goal. Sayin comes out on his second attempt, throws a pick, and they kick another field goal. And Ryan Day actually said on Bussin' with the Boys, Will Compton and Taylor Lewan's podcast, they had him on the other day, and he even said, he was like, there was a part of me that was like, oh no, this is happening again. And yeah, so all credit to Ohio State. They were the better team. They won. They did what the blueprint to beat Michigan was this year. They forced Bryce Underwood into a drop back game and made him throw the ball on 3rd and long. What's crazy here, and tell me how. And this is where I kind of made the comment about utilizing tools earlier. I want you to explain to me, when you have a 5-star plus quarterback that is supposed to be like the next big thing. And this is not a knock on Bryce Underwood at all. I love Bryce Underwood, and I think he's going to be a phenomenal football player at Michigan and then later on in the NFL. But why does your superstar franchise, or not franchise, I guess you can call them franchises, they pay players now, franchise quarterback throw the ball only 16 times? Now, how does that happen? Okay, now part of that is Ohio State owned. And when I say owned, I mean owned time of possession. I'm going to look this up because I'm curious about it. But I know they had to have, doubled or tripled it. 40 minutes. 40 minutes of a
Good Lord.
Game. Ohio State had the football. So that's part of it.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's part of it. But, they were themselves. And this is what this is what caused them to be able to beat Michigan. They did not allow Michigan to bait them into that same old in the trenches game, which honestly, I don't know that it would have mattered anyway, because in the second half, whenever they just put the son of a buck on cruise control, they dominated in the trenches. They out Michiganed Michigan on Saturday. And they also utilized their 2 receivers, who are the best 2 receivers in the country and incredible players. Michigan lost because Ohio State was better. There were definitely some things that helped it along. The play calling was bad. There was a couple passes that Underwood threw that it was not so much the play calling as more his decision making. I think I texted a very good friend of mine that's a Michigan fan, and I told him, I said, Bryce Underwood has to play like a junior or senior today, and he played like a freshman. And part of that was because of the number of passes he threw. Part of that was because he didn't go through his reads. Ohio State, I made a bold prediction a few months ago on this show, and I said that Michigan was going to beat Ohio State for the 5th straight year, and I was wrong on that one. I'm going to make another one right now. Ohio State's winning another national championship this year. They're going back to back. Listen, there is not a team in the country, and I've seen it firsthand all season. Michigan is not the only time I've watched Ohio State. There is not a team in this country that is even close. Like, Indiana's probably the second best team in the country, and I still would not be surprised at all if Ohio State won by 3 scores on Saturday when they play for the Big Ten title. Ohio State's the best team in the country. Number 2 is not close. They're going back-to-back. I don't care who they play. There's not a matchup. There's not a matchup in the country heading into the college football playoff here in a couple weeks that I look at and go, Ohio State's not the better team by far.
What about Indiana? Now let's really think about this. You put Indiana up against OSU, and you're telling me flat out confidently enough that OSU is going to win.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: Who are Indiana's wide receivers? Do you know them?
I mean, off the top of my head, not necessarily, except for Elijah Barrett.
Barrett?
Well, or Elijah Sarrett or Surratt. I can't pronounce it off the top of my head.
Elijah Surratt. Let's just look. Let's look at his
statistics. Other than that, no. I'm going to be honest with you. Elijah Surratt, other than that, no.
He has 600 yards for 11 touchdowns this year. Okay?
Okay.
Jeremiah Smith has 942 yards. Same amount of touchdowns. I know that I'm pretty sure that Carnell Tate, who is Ohio State's second receiver, has 750 yards. I'm just going to say this. Mendoza's experience will help them, but it will not be enough because Ohio State can beat you any way they need to. They've got the best defense in the country. And I hate this because you're making me sit here and talk about how good Ohio State is. But they've got Caleb Downs, who is the best defensive player in the country. They've got Sonny Styles. They've got Lorenzo Styles on the defensive side of the ball. Caleb Downs can play anywhere. He can play defensive end. He can play linebacker. He can play safety. It doesn't matter. Okay. They've got, and then on the offensive side, they've got Julian Sayin, who people are saying Fernando Mendoza's the Heisman. Not over Julian Sayin, he's not, unless they win on Saturday. They've got the 2 best receivers in the country. Their tight end play is good. And Bo Jackson has started to really run the ball effectively. I'm just saying I'm taking Ohio State against the field. And I don't think Indiana can beat them. I don't know if Indiana can play with them. And Kurt Signetti, if he sees this, he's probably going to message me personally. And because he's just a psycho, and I love that. And listen, I want to say this to Indiana fans, like, if they can keep Signetti around, like, they are going to win national championships. And yes, I said championships, plural. He is that good of a coach. But to me, man, it's not close. It's not even. I mean, even Georgia, like, there's not a team out of the conference either that can beat them, in my opinion.
So here's my thing, and why I think Indiana at least would stand a chance. All right, what is Ohio State? We already know Ohio State's one of, not the best passing team in the league, or in college football, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
What is their rushing rankings as far as yards per game? Because Indiana is 4th in the nation in points per game, and they're still top 10 in passing yards on average per game, and they're still number 9 in the nation in rushing yards per game with approximately 223 yards a game. My thing is with this offense is they can hit you multiple different ways. That is where I think Ohio State's going to meet their match. I feel like it's going to be Ohio State and Indiana. At some point, these 2 teams are going to meet.
They're going to play Saturday for the Big Ten title.
After the Big
okay.
Ten.
I was sorry. I was confused.
No, I meant after the Big Ten title game. They will meet. Like, we already know what to expect. And to me, the Big Ten could very well be a preview of the Big Ten championship game. Could be a very big preview of the national championship. Now, I want to ask you this. Speaking of, conference championship Saturday, which is always fun. Does Alabama get into the CFP if Georgia wins?
Oh man, that's so hard because
I say yes, and it sucks, but I say yes.
Okay, so this is where this college football playoff committee actually contradicts themselves every year, and
Okay.
the selection committee for basketball does this too. They say that for the non-winners of the conference championship, or in basketball, the conference tournament, does not matter. So if they hold true to that, then yes, Alabama gets in even with a loss. If they don't, which they don't because they never do. I don't care. They can block me. They just don't. Okay. So with that being said, do they get in with a loss? So say Georgia wins, like you said. Alabama also beat Georgia at Georgia. Keep that in mind. That game was played at Georgia. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know that you can. I will say this, and people might look at me sideways here. I don't know that Georgia gets in with a loss. Georgia right now is, yeah, okay, never mind. Georgia does get in with a loss. I'm sorry. Georgia gets in regardless.
Yeah, Georgia's number 3.
For whatever reason, I thought they were 10-2. I thought they were 10-2, not 11-1. So Georgia's in either way. Oh boy, I think they do actually, because I think in a weird way, even though it was earlier in the year, I don't think you can take Georgia and not take Alabama, because I think if you do that, then that's discounting their regular season win, if that makes sense. Like that's telling that one or the other doesn't matter, right? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And I don't think you can do that. I think Alabama's probably in either way.
So here's my big thing on all of this. One of the biggest debates that has gone on in the past week has been after, rivalry week took place, was Alabama jumping Notre Dame, while even though Alabama won the Iron Bowl against Auburn and Notre Dame beat Stanford 49-20. I think their reasoning is, yes, Notre Dame had a big, strong win on the road. But, and this is something you personally have said, even though Auburn is not a good team this year, going to Jordan-Hare is still one of the toughest places to play in college football, especially for an environment such as the Iron Bowl, which we've known all too often how intense the Iron Bowl gets in college football. Now, here's the thing. If BYU wins the Big 12 and Alabama loses the SEC title game, there's still questions on whether or not Alabama makes it in, because
Can I stop you?
Yeah.
For just a second. Alabama, in my opinion, is not the team in question right now. I don't.
Notre Dame?
It's Notre Dame and Miami. And I'm going to say this: I think if BYU wins the Big 12, I think Notre Dame falls out. I know I'm not the only person to say that. I think Josh Pate said that. I think Joel Klatt said that. I think if BYU and listen, here's one for you. Imagine this: what if Duke beats Virginia? What if Duke beats Virginia in the ACC title game? Because
if Duke beats Virginia, Miami's out.
They're both out. Notre Dame and Miami are both out. Because I want to check this just to make sure. I know last year the ACC champion automatically got a bid. Now they don't get an auto bid this year, but are we? And this is what's crazy. Are we going to leave the ACC champ out? And I know they'd be 8-5, but even still, and it's crazy. But there are people talking about it. If BYU wins the champion, if BYU wins the Big 12, Notre Dame falls out. If Duke wins the ACC championship, there's a really strong chance that Miami falls out.
So here's where we're at with these, because you take a look. You already know what teams. I mean, I'll go all the way up to. Honestly, if we're going to be serious here, the top 8 teams in the top 25 are, to me, guaranteed to make it. And that's Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Texas Tech, Oregon, Ole Miss, A&M, and the Sooners. Mm-hmm. That leaves you with 4 spots and a lot of teams. You got Alabama, Notre Dame, BYU, and then Miami is the 12. And then you still got, and I'm bummed that Vanderbilt's not in this top 12, but they're on the outside looking in. And I don't see a way for Texas or Vanderbilt to really realistically make it into the CFP at this point, even though Vanderbilt also only has 2 losses. Because right now in the top 12, only 4 teams have 2 losses, and that's Miami, Notre Dame, Alabama, and Oklahoma. To me, Miami has the most to lose. Miami is the easiest victim, if you will, that could be knocked out based on the results of this week. I think next would be Notre Dame. Because the committee is still hard pressed. The committee will do whatever they can to keep Notre Dame in there. But I'm telling you right now, if Duke wins and BYU wins, I'm sorry, you cannot keep BYU out of this. I'm sorry. There's no way at 11-1, and then that would put them at 12-1. You cannot keep them out of this. And the ACC, I still think, should also be well represented for the college football playoff. Alabama, win or lose. I mean, if they win, obviously they're getting in. If they lose, most likely they'll still be in. It's just going to be a different seed. They won't be the 9 seed. They'll probably be the 11 seed. They won't even be the 12th. But I'm telling you right now, based on the top 12 that we have now, it would not surprise me, to your point, if Miami's out and very possibly Notre Dame.
Listen, if Notre Dame gets in the college football playoff over Miami, I don't care what seed it is, then Miami, number 1, should never play Notre Dame again. And Notre Dame should never schedule any Power 5 conference again. They should play School of the Blind 12 times. Because what that tells me is head-to-head matchups do not matter.
No.
And it's all about who has the best record. Miami beat Notre Dame. They beat
Miami beat Notre Dame, but at the same time, you know what? In the weird sense of it, like it to me, it might be a mixture. Because I look at their Notre Dame schedule. They just got done beating Stanford. They beat Boston College, NC State, USC. I mean, I look at who they faced, and I look, opening week. What happened? They lost to Miami. What happened the next week? They lost to A&M. The only ranked team, and I don't even know if they're ranked currently or if that's their ranking at the time, was when they beat 16 USC 34-24 back in October.
Yep.
So I get
And they
it.
are
I
ranked 16
really,
right now, yes.
yeah. So right now, USC is ranked 16. So technically, Notre Dame has one top 25 win all year,
Right.
which is atrocious. So let's kind of wind this back. Let's look at Miami. Excuse me. Obviously, Miami has the win against Notre Dame. They also, that's it. Here's the thing. You know what I think is going to kill Miami? This is the honest to God truth. I think the game against Louisville, where they lost 24-21, and honestly, even the SMU loss, because SMU is unranked. SMU had a down year from their standards over the past few seasons. So the committee is going to look at that and be like, look, are we really going to put Miami in, even though they beat Notre Dame? You know, both teams have only beaten one top 25 team.
Right.
So then you just got to ask yourself, yes, Miami beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame beat USC. USC is not in this. So then you take a look at the rest of the schedule and you say to yourself, who should get in? And I think from the committee's perspective, they're going to put in Notre Dame over Miami. Do I think it's right? No, because I think head-to-head should matter. I think if your team A and your team B, and team A beats team B shouldn't be in if you guys are tied.
Right.
That's pretty logical. Because that's usually the first tiebreaker when it comes to any type of tournament or championship or playoffs or anything. They go to head.
Right.
So I do agree with you that Alabama actually at the end of the day is not the big team to be. I'm not going to say concerned about making it or not, because obviously I'm not concerned, but just the thought of it. It is Miami and Notre Dame. I think BYU will make it. I think they win Saturday, and I think they make it. And I think they make it even if, honestly, they could very well. Here's a question. BYU loses, drops them to 11-2. Does Miami and Notre Dame make it?
Okay. You want if BYU loses, and I actually think both Big 12 teams, and I want to get this correct. Both Big 12 teams, yes, are 11-1. So the loser of that game drops to 11-2. I think both Big 12 teams should be in. I think they're two of the best. I think they're two of the best teams in the country. I think they should both be in. I think Notre Dame. I think that Notre Dame should fall out. Texas Tech. I think, okay, first of all, the winner of BYU Texas Tech is going to be the 4 seed. And I know that's crazy, but it's probably how it's going to be. So I think Notre Dame, I'll tell you the truth, put the loser of the Big 12 game in Notre Dame's spot and put Vanderbilt in the other spot.
Ooh.
I like Vanderbilt. Maybe I'm crazy. I know they struggled a little bit there at one point. They have some good wins, man. They went to Rocky Top and rolled on Saturday. I mean,
here's how I look at it. You asked about Duke and Virginia. I mean, I look at it logically like this. Virginia's 17 in the nation. And Duke is unranked in their 7-5. And they're 0-3 versus AP top teams. I don't think Duke gets in if they win.
No,
I think it would be fun, but you know that they're going to look at it and be like, no, we can't. Virginia wins, they might. The Big Ten will be fully represented, like based off the championship matchups. Both Big Ten teams will be in. Both SEC teams will be in. I think, most likely both Big 12 teams, and I definitely think they should be.
Right.
I think that, honestly, I mean, from there, you just see how the championships and everything play out. You're not going to have a Sun Belt team. You're not going to have an MAC team. You're not going to have an ACC most likely. And, you damn sure
one group of five will get in. So you will have probably James Madison, to tell you the truth. One group of five will get in.
Do you think okay, I would like James Madison to get in, but does James Madison get in over North Texas?
It's James.
Or even wait, what about Tulane?
Tulane and North Texas have played this year, and I'm pretty sure that Tulane lost that game.
Well, the thing of it is they face in the ACC.
Yeah, they did lose that game.
Yeah. So Tulane gets a chance at the AAC title against North Texas this week. So if one group of five is represented, I'm saying to myself, well, maybe this is the team.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Okay.
I think Tulane or James Madison. It's just
it's the winner of that game or James Madison.
Okay. I can go for that. Opinion. My thing is, and this is a guy who's a big Georgia State fan, and especially because his dad was an alumnus there, I find it hard to I'm thinking of it from the perspective of the committee. From the perspective of the fan, I would love nothing more than a lot of these group of five teams to get in. From the perspective of the committee, you want to keep the Sun Belt out at all costs because they just know that if James Madison goes in and you put him up, let's just say for shits and giggles, you put him up against Ole Miss, it's probably not going to end well.
For who?
Honestly, James Madison. I know the whole thing with Lane Kiffin leaving is casting a cloud over Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is still the same team.
But if we're being realistic, the odds of North Texas or Tulane competing with those guys are very slim too. So
which comes down to the next thing. Marketability. I can't say you'll market North Texas. I think you can market Tulane more than you could James Madison.
I disagree with that because James Madison has a basketball program that can compete as well. I'll just tell you, James Madison's basketball program has been to the NCAA tournament quite a few times in recent memory. If I'm not mistaken, they were a 12 seed last year, so which is about as high now. Used to, you would have mid-majors that were 11 seeds, but now a mid-major is typically a lower tier Power 5 team or Power 4, whatever. And so your 12 seed is kind of where your mid-majors start to come in, and that's about as high as you can get for a mid-major standpoint. I think James Madison, especially with Kurt Signetti being the coach there, I think that before going to Indiana, I think James Madison has a lot of marketability. If you don't mind, I'll give you my 12 if in no particular order. I'll give you my 12.
Okay, and then I'll give you my 12, and then we'll wrap it up here.
Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama. Okay. Texas Tech, BYU, Vanderbilt. Okay, wait, hang on. Virginia, if they win Virginia, Vanderbilt. There's 10. James Madison, if they beat Troy. So there's 11.
They probably will.
Oh, Texas A&M. Duh. Okay. So, yeah.
So, here's mine. So, I got Ohio State, of course, Indiana, Georgia, Ole Miss, Oregon, Texas Tech, A&M, Oklahoma, Alabama, BYU. So now that's 10. I think that's my 10. Then I got two more. So this is where, I'll be honest, I would love to see Vanderbilt. So I'm going to put Vanderbilt in because I really want to see that. This is the best season they've had in 70 years. Put them in. you want to talk about marketability, that's a team I think you can market because of just the underdog status of them. And then for the 12 team, I'm going to go probably Tulane or James Madison. I think if Tulane wins on Saturday, they'll get in if they're the representation for the group of 5. If not, James Madison. I will say I don't think whatever happens, I don't think Virginia makes it if they win. I don't think Miami will make it. And right now, especially as the show has gone on, I've found it even harder to envision Notre Dame making it. Because it's going to ask a lot more questions than it'll answer, if that makes sense. If you put Notre Dame in and Miami's out, that's going to ask a lot more questions than you could answer. And then,
you can't put Notre Dame in and leave Miami out. Just like you can't, just like the whole just like the Georgia-Alabama debacle. Like,
right. You have to, and this is the thing. I get it. It's Notre Dame, whatever the case is. But if they're going to keep doing their schedule the way they do it, then you cannot give them the benefit of the doubt in these types of situations. They lost to Miami. Point blank, simple. That was the one team, top 25 team that Miami beat. Whereas USC was the one top 25 team that Notre Dame beat. But Notre Dame was higher up than USC. So you put the math together. The math is mathing here. Basically, right. Miami deserves it over Notre Dame. If you had to put one of those two teams in, logically speaking, you have to put Miami in.
Right.
As much as it'll piss off so many old school college football fans. And it is unbelievable how frustrating people will get if Miami gets in over Notre Dame. But you have to. And and if you want my honest opinion, Notre Dame has really squeaked into the playoffs the past 2 or 3 years. I really feel like they've just kind of made their way in because of a namesake type thing. Because, hey, we got to have Notre Dame in there, you know?
Right.
So that's how I look at it. But with all that said, folks, we're going to wrap it up here on Roundabout Sports this week. Of course, Roundabout Sports can be found on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, Amazon Music, and any streaming platforms you have. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, X, and on the Interstate 70 Sports Media YouTube channel. Please go and subscribe to the YouTube channel, folks. I can't emphasize it enough. We got so many great shows on there. We got AB's College Hoop Show. We got the Elite Sports Show. We got the Blues Fan Forum podcast. We got the Redbird Rundown. We got Scott Plaza's Cardinals on My Time. And of course, Roundabout Sports, but you already knew that. Of course, as always, we put up the NAMI helpline at the end of every show. And for that, you dial 1-800-950-NAMI. That's 1-800-950-NAMI. The National Alliance on Mental Illness is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to help build better lives for people who struggle with mental health issues, as well as their families in need. For the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline that we always put up, for that you dial 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years. Understand you're never alone in this world. There is always somebody who loves you, who cares about you, who wants nothing but the best for you. We all go through struggles and trials and tribulations on an everyday basis, and your feelings are always valid. I never want you to feel like what you're feeling, what you're going through is not valid, because it is. And you are always worth it. And you were just a phone call, a text message, an email away from what could be that life-saving help for you. And you could be the listening ears and watchful eyes out there for somebody else in need as well. As always, I want to thank my dear friend and colleague, AB Austin Bradley, for joining me. this week, and look forward to us doing this again next week right here on Roundabout Sports. And until then, I'm the Maestro, Jeremy Karp, and remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading. Good night, everybody.